A very good evening to you. Welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Janice Cobham, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari congratulates Dr. Iyabo Masha on G24 appointment. ECOWAS to bestow on Buhari Democracy Icon Award. Plus, Indonesia sends more rescuers as extreme weather hampers search after landslide. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. A very good evening to you and welcome to the news at 9. First in the news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari today congratulated the newly appointed director and head of the Secretariat of the Intergovernmental Group of 24, G24, Dr. Iyabo Masha, according to a statement by his senior special assistant on media and publicity, Garba Shehu. Buhari, in a personally signed letter, noted that the appointment, Dr. Masha has made history, becoming the first African to hold the position since the organization was founded in 1971. The president enjoined Dr. Masha to use the opportunity and the position to champion the cause of developing countries, especially on the key economic challenges of economic diversification, debt resolution, tax policy, and financial sector development. In another development, President Muhammadu Buhari in Doha criticized existing debt architecture that makes it more expensive for the least developed countries, LDCs, to borrow on the global market than the advanced counterparts. He warned that such an unfair arrangement would make it extremely difficult for the LDCs to meet the 2030 Agenda for 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, in a statement said the president aligned with the United Nations Secretary General's description on the global financial system as an unfair debt architecture that not only charges poor countries much more money to borrow on the markets than advanced economies, but downgrades them when they even think of restructuring their debt or applying for debt reliefs. Meanwhile, as he prepares to leave office upon the conclusion of his two-term tenure, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, today said it has made arrangements to honor President Muhammadu Buhari with an award in recognition of his achievements in the defense and promotion of democracy as a system of government throughout the sub-region. According to the ECOWAS chairman and Guinea-Bissau's president, Umaru Sissoko Embalo, President Buhari will have his name on the roll of honor in the community's new headquarters building upon its completion in Abuja. A statement issued by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, the sub-regional chairman, made the disclosure at a bilateral meeting with Buhari on the sidelines of the ongoing 5th United Nations Conference on Least Developed Countries in Doha, Qatar. And away from that, the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Clem Agba, has disclosed that the federal government plans to establish a basket fund to collect donations for the 2023 population and housing census. He made this disclosure at a high-level partners engagement to seek support for the 2023 census in Abuja. Agba noted that a total of 869 billion naira is needed for the census, noting that the government committed 291.5 billion naira with a need for an additional 327.2 billion naira. He further disclosed that the census exercise was to be conducted last year but rescheduled for March 2023, adding that there is a recommendation that it should be held in May 2023. And moving now to the judiciary, where the Supreme Court has affirmed Kanimo Udofia as the authentic governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC in Akwa Ibom State, as it dismissed the suit filed by Senator Itainang seeking to nullify the primary that produced Udofia. Delivering judgment, Justice Kudirat Kekere Ekun upheld the decision of the Court of Appeal Abuja, which held that the Federal High Court in Uyo acted without jurisdiction when it nullified the APC's primary. The appellate court had upheld the primary that produced Udofia as the flag bearer of the party. Recall that Enang had prayed the court to declare him as the authentic governorship candidate of the party on the basis that Udofia was not an APC member as of May 26, 2022, when the party conducted the governorship primaries. His application originated from the decision of a Federal High Court in Uyo, which had, on 14 November 2022, nullified the election of Udofia as the APC governorship candidate for the state. Dissatisfied with the judgment, Udofia lodged an appeal at the Court of Appeal in Abuja. The appellate court on 19 January set aside the judgment of the lower court and restored him as the APC candidate. And still on judicial matters, Court of Appeal Abuja has fixed Wednesday to consider the merit of the application the Independent National Electoral Commission filed to be allowed to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system used for the just concluded presidential elections. After the three-man panel of the court had listened to the parties, Justice Joseph High adjourned ruling on the matter till Wednesday. Obi and Labour Party, through their team of lawyers led by Onyechi Ikpeazu San, said the essence of the application was to enable them to extract data embedded in the beavers, which represents the actual result from polling units. They equally applied to obtain the certified through copy of all the data in the beavers. In a related development, the President-elect Bola Tinubu today urged the Court of Appeal in Abuja to order the Independent National Electoral Commission to grant him access to sensitive materials it used for the presidential elections. Tinubu, through his lawyer, Akintola Makinde, said he would need to inspect, scan and make photocopies of some of the electoral materials to enable him to prepare his defense against petitions that would seek to nullify his elections. While Tinubu's first ex parte application, which was filed on March 6, has the Labour Party and its presidential candidate Peter Obi as respondents, in the second application, the People's Democratic Party and its candidate Atiku Abubakar were cited as respondents alongside INEC. In a separate development, the All Progressives Congress today in Abuja assembled a team of highly qualified and experienced lawyers to represent it at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. According to a statement by APC National Legal Advisor Ahmed El Mazouk, the team comprised legal luminaries with vast experience in election petition matters, constitutional laws and litigation. He said the legal team, consisting of 13 senior advocates of Nigeria, was led by Prince Lateef Fagbemi, a renowned lawyer. El Mazouk said Fagbemi had successfully handled various high-profile election matters and other landmark cases. Meanwhile, Presidential Election Petition Court's PEPC has listed some motions for hearing this afternoon. One of such motions is the one filed by the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC, seeking to vary the orders granted to the candidates of the People's Democratic Party PDP and Labour Party LP Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, respectively, to inspect materials used for last presidential elections. Also listed for hearing today include the motions filed on March 6 by the President-elect Bola Tinubu and his party, the All Progressives Congress APC, for an order to inspect materials used for the last Saturday of presidential elections. Further listed for hearing is a motion by Obi and Labour Party for leave to carry out a digital forensic and physical inspection of beavers. In the meantime, the Executive Secretary of the National Human Rights Commission, Tony Ojukwu-San, has again emphasized the imperatives of gender equality. Ojukwu, who restated this today, noted that the issue of gender equality and gender inclusiveness should at this time define the way the society is governed. While condemning the inability of the National Assembly to pass landmark legislations on women during the constitutional reforms, he used the opportunity of this year's International Women's Day to again call on federal lawmakers to consider and pass the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill, CEDAW, Domestication Bill, and other bills supporting affirmative action. He said passage of the bills would reduce gender-based violations and legally equip women to challenge the inequalities confronting them. On electoral matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has released a list of members-elect of the 10th House of Representatives. Recall that the National Assembly elections were held on Saturday, February 25, 2023, alongside the presidential elections. A new set of members, however, with returning familiar faces, will sit in the legislative arm of government, making up the red and green chambers. Among the new faces in the House of Reps are 34 members of the Labour Party, who defeated rivals from the ruling All Progressives Congress and opposition People's Democratic Party to clinch a seat for themselves and their party in the National Assembly. Meanwhile, INEC has also released a list of members-elect of the 10th Senate, including Gospel Akpabio and Akon Samson of Akwa Ibom State. In the recently released list, however, 8 names are missing, as the Commission noted that supplementary elections will be held in the affected senatorial districts. The affected districts include Enugu East, Kebbi North, Plateau Central, Sokoto East, North and South, Yobe South, and Zamfara Central. In a related development, Independent National Electoral Commission INEC has removed the names of the embattled leader of the House of Representatives Al-Hassan Ado Doguwa from the list of election winners. This comes after the electoral body declared him as the winner of the February 25 election in the Doguwa Tundowada constituency. According to the returning officer, Professor Ibrahim Adamu Yakasaya, Doguwa of the All Progressives Congress APC polled 39,732 votes to defeat his closest rival, Yushau Salisu Abdullahi of the New Nigeria People's Party NNPP, who polled 34,798 votes. However, INEC has now posted a list on their verified Twitter page stating that the declaration made by the returning officer was done under duress. As a result, Doguwa's name has been removed from the list of election winners. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission has directed the Sokoto State Resident Electoral Commissioner REC, Nura Ali, to stay away from the commission till further notice. The directive was contained in a letter signed by the Secretary to the Commission, Rose Anthony. In that regard, INEC directed the Administrative Secretary in the state to take full charge with immediate effects. It will be recalled that INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu recently, in a meeting with State REC, vowed to deal with any any official of the commission who contributed to the shortcomings of the presidential elections. In the meantime, West African Civil Society Forum, a regional network of CSOs drawn from 15 West African states, has said the February 25 presidential election that produced Bola Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, as the winner, was initially free and fair until counting and uploading began. The National Executive Director of the Forum, Sanwo Olatunji David, stated this today in Abuja while reviewing the just concluded presidential and National Assembly polls. He blamed some of the technical hitches on inadequate training of polling units agents on the effective use of the beavers. And elsewhere, the leadership of the Labour Party today announced the dissolution of the Executive Council of its Rivers State branch with immediate effect ahead of the March 11 governorship and state assembly elections. A statement signed by the national chairman of the party, Julius Abure, said that the state officials of the party were asked for gross anti-party activities and corruption in the management of LP funds. The dissolution is coming in the wake of reports that the state chapter of the Labour Party has collapsed its structures to endorse the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate, Sim Fubara. But rising from an emergency meeting of the National Working Committee in Abuja, Abure stated that the move to dissolve the executives was in the interest of the Labour Party and the obedience movement in Rivers State. In a separate development, National Institute of Security Studies (NIS) has engaged the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) to advance strategic collaboration that would enhance the application of information and communication technology (ICTs) towards improving national security. Speaking during a visit to the Executive Vice Chairman of the Commission, Umar Dambata, in Abuja, the Institute's Director Research Estimates and Library Services, Adegboyega Karim, said the visit was a fact-finding mission to enrich ongoing research that focuses on globalization and regional integration for sustainable development in Africa. He noted that the Commission has made giant strides advancing the cause of digital economy development in Nigeria and that its regulatory processes provides a good opportunity for the collaboration to enable the group to research further into matters regarding telecommunications and national security. In another development, the chairman of the Niger Delta Development Commission, Loretta Onoche, has pledged to support the commission's efforts to develop the capacity of women in the region. Onoche, in a statement signed by the NDDC Director, Corporate Affairs, Ibitoye Abosede, said the commission would, in no time, set up a committee to articulate the specific needs of women in the region. She charged women to work together to eradicate gender discrimination in the country. Meanwhile, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres says the increasingly distant goal of gender equality will take another 3 centuries to achieve. Guterres said in a General Assembly speech ahead of International Women's Day on March 8 that gender equality is growing more distant, a track of 300 years away. He called for collective action worldwide by government, civil society, and the private sector to provide gender-responsive education, improve skills training, and invest more in bridging the digital gender divide. And back here, residents of Ikpar Road in Uyo local government area of Akwa Ibom State have called on the state government to hasten the construction of the road which link Udwa Ikpa to Plaza Speaking with our correspondent Esther Otoyo, they asked the government to avail the contractors currently working on the road with needed equipment and capital to enable the quick completion of the road. They also decried that the bad state of the road has affected their businesses and is dangerous for school children plying the road, noting that one can easily fall into the pits that have been dug in the area for months, which can result to death.
This has really affected the people residing here as well as the indigenes, in that businesses have been halted for some time now, and students find it difficult to also access the road. Perhaps the workforce is low, so if they can at least have enough workforce, it can also hasten up the pace.
And still to come in the news, U.S. Fed prepared to raise rates faster. Do stay with us.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join INEC every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian.
Some issues on politics,
Hello, Nigeria. I remain committed.
security,
Education, health,
lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken
every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television. And still to come, I'm sorry about that. Now to the rest of our stories. Welcome back. Moving now to Africa, where President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed a former mayor Gosensho Ramogopa to the newly created position of Electricity Minister in an effort to address the country's long-running power crisis. The new minister faces two vast challenges: power cuts of up to 12 hours a day. The government has declared a national disaster and allegations of high level of corruption at the state-run energy giant Eskom. The company's former chief executive recently told the media that senior politicians were looting the firm. Eskom is massively in debt, almost $24 billion in the red. The rolling power cuts are strangling the economy. Some say people's fury over the blackouts may even cost the governing party at next year's elections. In the cabinet changes announced on Monday evening, Ramaphosa also appointed the deputy head of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, as deputy president. And still in Africa, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has urged M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo to respect a ceasefire agreement set to come into effect today. The Secretary General, who welcomed regional and international efforts led by the Angolan President and the African Union to try to stop a conflict that has displaced hundreds of thousands, condemned the violence against civilians and urged all armed groups to lay down their weapons and disarm unconditionally. Guterres urged the M23 to honor a pledge to cease hostilities to facilitate full and effective withdrawals from the areas it has occupied. In the meantime, the United Nations says Eritrea's record on human rights remains dire and shows no signs of improvement. The UN's Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights, Nada al-Nashif, said the withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Ethiopia's northern region of Tigray was very slow and largely incomplete. She said there were credible records of torture, arbitrary detention, and enforced disappearances. According to reports, estimated 600,000 people died during the Tigray War. And elsewhere, at least 10 people have been killed by Tropical Storm Freddy in Mozambique, according to the UN, contradicting earlier reports by the Mozambican authorities that no one had died. In the same announcement, the UN's Humanitarian Affairs Agency, OCHA, confirmed the deaths of 11 people in nearby Madagascar, where more than 3,300 homes were destroyed on Sunday when it returned to the island. It is largely one of the longest-lasting cyclones in recent decades, crossing almost the entire Indian Ocean from the coast of Indonesia to southern Africa. Meanwhile, police in Zambia have arrested 4 women after they took part in a march against gender-based violence that also attracted LGBTQ rights activists. Same-sex relationships and marriages in Zambia are illegal. The government warned against the promotion of gay and lesbian rights. According to police spokesperson Danny Wale, the 4 women, all aged under 30, have been charged with giving false information to public officers and of holding an unlawful assembly. Meanwhile, some Zambians have criticized the march for this reason, but others who attended the march or support its aim remain defiant. On the foreign scene, Japan has reportedly destroyed its rockets during a failed launch today, setting back efforts to crack a market led by Elon Musk's SpaceX. According to reports, its space agency had to send a self-destruct command to the H-3 rockets when its second stage engine failed minutes after liftoff. The H-3 rocket is the first medium-lift rocket designed by Japan in 3 decades. Meanwhile, Japan's Science Minister Keiko Nagaoka said authorities were investigating the cause of the engine failure. She apologized for inability to meet the expectations of the public and related parties and described the development as extremely regrettable. And still on the foreign scene, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says operations to defend the embattled eastern city of Bakhmut will go on and are backed by senior generals. Reports say Western analysts suggested that Ukraine was probably withdrawing some of its troops as Russian forces close on the city. Meanwhile, Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of the Wagner private army involved in the Russian campaign, has complained of a lack of ammunition amid apparent friction between his fighters and regular Russian forces. He also says his representatives had been barred from a Russian military headquarters. In the meantime, hundreds of mourners packed a Kyiv church today for the funeral of volunteers killed on a sabotage mission in Russia following a spate of attacks along Moscow's frontiers. Mourners, many in camouflage and covering their faces, attended a service in a general church for 4 men, one still a teenager, killed in December during an incursion into Russia's southern Bryansk region. Russia's FSB security service announced it had killed the men, saying they were armed with rifles and explosives. Russian media reported their bodies were handed over this month. Meanwhile, the men's coffins were draped with the banner of a nationalist battalion called Bratsville, or Brotherhood, created on the basis of a party of the same name. Meanwhile, Berlin has upset EU's partners by blocking a milestone agreement to ban new sales of fossil fuel cars from 2035 as German domestic politics takes the bloc hostage. The planned ban is key to Brussels' push to make the bloc climate neutral by 2050 with net zero greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the German Chancellor's scramble to keep his coalition together has enraged many in the EU, since the deal had already passed through each stage of the Brussels legislative process, including approval by member states. According to reports, the bloc was due to formally nod it into law today, but in an unprecedented maneuver, Berlin now says it cannot give its agreement. Meanwhile, the European Parliament has already voted to formally approve the text of the bill, which will be de facto mean that all new cars sold after 2035 will have to have electronic motors. And elsewhere, Israeli troops today killed 6 Palestinians in Jenin, including a militant accused of killing 2 Israelis, the latest deadly raid in a surge of violence in the occupied West Bank. After Israeli troops entered the Jenin refugee camp, witnesses reported heavy gunfire between militants as forces surrounded a house. 2 witnesses said rockets had been fired at a building housing a group of militants, and reported gunfire in the street elsewhere in the northern West Bank camp. According to reports, thick plumes of smoke were seen rising from buildings as Israeli armored vehicles moved through the streets. The Palestinian Health Ministry said in a statement that 6 men had been killed, one aged 49 and the rest in their 20s. Meanwhile, Iran has announced it had made the first arrest in a spate of mystery poisoning of schoolgirls that has affected more than 5,000 people since late November. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali had called Monday for the perpetrators of the unforgivable crime to be tracked down without mercy as public anger amounts. According to Deputy Interior Minister Majid Ramadi, Based on the intelligence and research measures of the intelligence agencies, a number of people have been arrested in 5 provinces, and the relevant agencies are conducting a full investigation. He need not identify those detained for elaborate on any possible motive. And elsewhere, 2 of the 4 U.S. citizens kidnapped after crossing the borders into crime-plagued northeastern Mexico have been found dead, according to the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI). In an earlier statement, the U.S. citizens crossed into Matamoros in Tamaulipas State on Friday in a white minivan with North Carolina license plates. Meanwhile, it offered a $50,000 reward for help, leading to the return of the unidentified victims and the arrest of the perpetrators. In the meantime, British architect and urban planner David Chipperfield won the 2023 Pfizer Prize, the profession's most prestigious award. The 69-year-old was honored for timeless modern design that confronts climate urgencies, transforms social relationships, and reinvigorates cities. Chipperfield said he was so overwhelmed to become the prize's 52nd laureate. Chipperfield is renowned for renovations and reconstructions of old buildings, updating them for the modern age while honoring their history and culture. Meanwhile, some of his best-known works include the Museo Jumex in Mexico City, a renovation of the News Museum in Berlin, and a new building for the St. Louis Arts Museum in Missouri. Other major works of Chipperfield's include the Museum of Modern Literature in Marbach, Germany, and the Des Moines Public Library in Iowa. Meanwhile, more rescuers and heavy machineries will be sent to Indonesia's disaster-hit Sarasan's Island to search for dozens still missing after a deadly landslide. Recall that the landslide struck on Monday in the remote Natuna region between Borneo and Peninsula, Malaysia. According to reports, poor weather and downed communication lines have complicated rescue efforts on the island, which is home to about 8,000 people. Meanwhile, pictures provided by Natuna's Communication and Information Agency showed houses reduced to rubble with fallen trees and torn roofs visible. Body bags were lined up on top of a blue tarpaulin as officials gathered to pray for the victims. It is now time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here is Blyden Okem.
Thank you and welcome to Business News. Good evening. My name is Blyden Okem. The Federal Reserve is likely to increase the pace of rate hikes if incoming data suggests tougher measures are needed to control inflation, Fed Chair Powell said in prepared testimony before the Senate Banking Committee. Powell also noted that the ultimate level of interest rates may be higher than previously anticipated. In Nigeria, investors in the securities market have lent MTN Nigeria 125 billion naira. A corporate document has notified the company's shareholders and the investing public. According to the document dated March 6, 2023, the fund was raised through the issuance of commercial paper. Commercial paper is an interest-bearing promissory note exchanged for capital. It is a credit instrument or a channel to obtain loans from securities markets without approaching the bank. MTN Nigeria had set out to borrow 100 billion naira through commercial paper. However, it was oversubscribed, which means there was more demand for it among investors than planned. As a result, MTN Nigeria raised 125 billion naira from commercial paper issuance, enabling the company to disburse the fund on short-term working capital and funding requirements. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, has taken over the oil mining lease, OML 18, from the previous operator, Oraton Exploration and Production Limited. NNPC 18 Operating Limited, a subsidiary of NNPC Limited, is now the new operator of OML 18, according to the NNPC spokesperson, Gaba Mohammed. Prior to the takeover, both Oraton and NNPC owned stakes in OML 18 as a joint venture, with Oraton operating the oil field. However, in the last 2 years, the oil field has not been producing. A week ago, Oraton said it was not to blame for production failing, stating that it was primarily due to the unavailability of Nembe Creek trunk line. It's time for the Nigerian stock market report. At the end of today's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, a total of 159.46 million shares in 4,187 deals, corresponding to a market value of 2.475 billion naira, were traded. The current market capitalization is 30.3 trillion naira. The all-share index sparred 1.63 basis points to close at 55,603.94 points. Caverton Offshore Support Group led the gainers with 9.62% share price appreciation, closing at 1 naira 14 kobo per share. On the losing side, MRS Oil Nigeria came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 10% at 31 naira 5 kobo per share. Transcorp Nigeria recorded the highest volume of 14.4 million traded shares. This is all on Business News. And back to Janice Cobhams for the rest of the news.
Many thanks for still being there. Let's move to health now. As part of efforts to stem the scourge of the deadly Lassa fever in the state, the Ondo state government has commenced the distribution of pesticides in prevalent areas in the state to eradicate rats in the area. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control recently rated the state as one of the states with high prevalence of the Lassa fever disease. Specifically, The distribution took place in Owo, Akure South, Akure North, Oshe, Akoko Southwest, Akoko Southeast, and Idanre local government areas. Speaking at the flag off of the rat eradication campaign in Owo town, the headquarters of Owo local government area, the State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Banji Ajaka, said the government was committed to eradicating the disease in the state. And still in health, an outbreak of diphtheria infection has reportedly claimed 61 lives in Kano State as of March 2, 2023. The Kano State Case Manager, Dr. Salma Suwad, disclosed this at a webinar organized by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention with the theme, Diphtheria Outbreak in Nigeria, Vaccination Response. Dr. Suwad also said a total of 783 patients have also been on admission so far. Of this number, 360 were females and 423 were males. Suwaid, who is also a consultant pediatrician, noted that the average hospital stay of the patients is 4 days. According to him, 68% of patients have been discharged, 1.66% absconded, and 12.2% died. Meanwhile, a new study has affirmed the role of sleep in supporting immune levels, suggesting that people who sleep under 6 or more than 9 hours are at higher risk of getting sick. The study stressed that poor sleep can increase an individual's risk of developing infection such as colds and flu. The research conducted a cross-sectional study of 1,848 unselected patients in the waiting rooms of general practitioners in Norway to determine whether self-reported measures of chronic insomnia disorder, chronic sleep issues, sleep length, and circadian reference were linked to the risk of infection and antibiotic use. The study at the end of the survey discovered that the risk of infection was 27% and 44% higher in patients sleeping below 6 hours or more than 9 hours. It's now over to Isaac for latest sports stories.
Thank you very much, Janice. In sports, police have begun an investigation into a video appearing to show Memphis Grizzlies player Jamarant holding a gun in a Colorado nightclub. The All-Star guard has apologized following a live broadcast of his Instagram page on Saturday and has been suspended for at least 2 matches. Local police are now investigating whether the 23-year-old broke gun laws. They confirmed the incident occurred in Glendale, near Denver, and then investigated the matter. It is legal to carry a gun in Colorado with some exceptions, including possession while under the influence of alcohol. The incident occurred as after the Grizzlies lost 113-97 to the Denver Nuggets. Well, away from that, the top 3 players in the world have been grouped together for the opening 2 rounds of this week's Players' Championship at Sawgrass in Florida. Spain's John Ram, who has won 5 of his past 10 tournaments, is the world #1, but second-ranked Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, who is third, can take top spot with a win. Australian Open champion Cameron Smith, who won the PGA Tour's flagship event last year, would not be defending his title because he opted to join the LIV Golf Series last year. Also missing are India's Anirban Lahiri and England's Paul Casey, who finished second and third in 2022 because they too have chosen to play in the Saudi Arabian-funded setup. Northern Ireland's McIlroy, who won this event in 2019, comes into the tournament in good form, having finished runner-up at last week's Arnold Palmer Invitational Tournament. Well, finally, let's talk about football and the home scene. The Interim Management Committee has lifted the ban on Shooting Stars media officer Tosin Omojola. The committee disclosed that Omojola was forgiven after apologizing and appealing for forgiveness. It will be recalled that in June 2022, Mojola was banned for 1 year following his statement after Shooting Stars match day 31 game against Remo Stars in Ogun State. Supporters of Shooting Stars attacked the journalist Toby Adepoju after their 1-1 draw with Remo Stars at the Lekon Salami Stadium last year. The IMC noted that the lifting of ban takes immediate effect. Well, that's it on sports. Isaac, back to you, Janice.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Let's move now to entertainment stories, where the federal government has expressed confidence that Spain will invest in Nigeria's music industry. The Director General, Nigerian Tourism Development Authority, Folorunsho Koka, stated this at a press conference on a vis-a-vis flagship professional meeting between the African music industry and Spanish music producers aimed at the internalization of African music. Koka said Nigeria is a creative hub in Africa, hence Spain recognizes the importance of the Nigerian music industry to its gross domestic products. And still on entertainment, the People's Democratic Party PDP candidate for the Etiosa Federal House of Representatives seat, Bankole Wellington, popularly known as Banky W, has spoken out for the first time since he lost the House of Representative elections. Recall that in the just concluded 2023 elections, the Labour Party's Thaddeus Atta unexpectedly defeated Banky W and won the post. In a video on his Instagram post, Banky W expressed deep disappointment at losing the election. The singer stated in the video that he had made extensive preparations in anticipation of his triumph, including plans for a Sunday Thanksgiving program, searching for a flat and office in Abuja. And lastly tonight, internationally celebrated award-winning gospel singer Mercy Chinwo, popularly known as Minister Mercy, is set to gather thousands of her francophone fans in a grand concert in Lomé, Republic of Togo. The concert scheduled for March 12, 2023 at the Omnisport Stadium Lomé is said to be packed by Christians across Togo who will gather to worship alongside Chinwo in an electrifying atmosphere. Known for her popular hit songs Excess Love, among other incredible hits, Mercy Chinwo is billed to minister at the widely anticipated concert dubbed Grand Concert Excess Love, which aims to create an opportunity for all to come together as a body of Christ to celebrate the goodness of God and His excess love. Sharing the stage with a star-studded lineup of gospel ministers and gospel music artists from other African countries, the two-day concert promises to be a night of high energy, praise, worship, and diverse expressions of God. And that's it on the news tonight. Many thanks for watching and do have a good evening. But ensure to follow us on all our social media pages and subscribe to your YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 9. My name is Janice Cobham. Do have a good night rest.